1140.
Welcome in to another edition of the Return of Your Not podcast. We're doing this thing live these days from 6 to 7 every single Tuesday. You got myself, Chris Watkins. You got Brenden Nunes, who's just parking. He'll be with us in just a second. And of course, as we do every week as well, joining us remotely. One day we'll get him in here, but he's on daddy duty today, as he is every Tuesday. Frankie Cartoscelli. Frank, it's been quite a week since we last talked on these airwaves. We've seen each other a couple times since now and then, but last Tuesday we had not played the Golden State game. We had not played that road game in Phoenix, and last night we had quite a win against the Memphis Grizzlies. 1-2 week, if you will, since we last spoke on air. Frank, how you feeling about the week that was in Kings basketball?
Happy Tuesday, Chris. Happy Tuesday, Brenden. Happy Tuesday, everybody that's listening, watching. It was a good night last night, which was kind of a palate cleanser. I think that we were on with Alan, our good buddy, on his show. We like to kind of give our 3-game predictions or 4-game predictions of sample sizes. And I think was it you guys that were a little more optimistic about those games? I think I was more optimistic as well. Yeah. And it just the Kings got absolutely steamrolled in those 3 games against New York, Golden State, and Phoenix. It was not even close. But last night was kind of a glimpse at the offensive upside that this group can have. And the defense still a concern. You see a Ja Morant-less Grizzlies team score 122 points. They shot above 40% from 3. That's kind of just what the Kings do. They allow teams to get hot from 3. But a win's a win. The Kings get all the wins they can get right now. And while it looks like the play-in's pretty much a certainty, you want to have home court. I think is kind of the main thing to watch in the next couple of weeks here. You want to have home court if you have that 9-10 game. And we saw how important that was last year. And I think last night, was kind of hopefully a glimpse into what we'll see against the NBA powerhouse right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we got Brenden Nunes stepping in the studio here. Brenden, we got Frank's thoughts on the week. We kind of outlined it there. Haven't spoken on air since the Warriors game last week. Rough one, but what were your thoughts on the week that was?
Yeah, definitely a rough one overall. I think defensively, they had taken a lot of strides ever since that trade. And really, you could even say since Doug Christie had taken over. And I think that we definitely saw a step back specifically during that 4-game losing streak. The Kings were their opponents were totally running it up on them, 50% above from the field in all 4 of those games. And then even though it's just a little bit below 50, that 48% that you hold Memphis to. And yes, Desmond Bane has somewhat of a historic night, not missing from 3, but he wasn't super efficient from inside the arc in his 40-plus point performance. So I think that some of the offensive hiccups are a little bit concerning, but mainly where I've seen the difference is defensively for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's been a pretty crazy week. I think it's been a roller coaster emotionally for some. Definitely some dips there. I think after that Warrior game, and then especially after the Phoenix game on the road, I think some people were ready to call it a season. And Frankie, you kind of mentioned the play-in spot that the Kings have found themselves in. I made a graphic promoting this here show that you're listening to right now, but also posted it over on the Instagram page, man. The Kings are just locked into, it feels like at this point, to that number 9 seed. They're currently 3.5 games behind the Clippers, who are in 8 right now. They're 38-30, while the Kings are standing 34-33. And then behind them, 2 games behind them, is Dallas and Phoenix. We saw that Phoenix kind of gave Sacramento some fits the other night. They don't play again until the last game of the season. Hopefully it doesn't, but maybe it does end up coming down to that final matchup to determine who gets the home game in that play-in seed. But for the most part here, I mean, Frank, does it kind of feel like this is the week where it kind of really is settling? Like, of course there's still some season to play, but we're pretty much locked into this 9 seed at this point.
Yeah, and like the Kings, they don't have any favors, this upcoming week. They obviously get Cleveland. Kevin Huerter revenge game, which I've been kind of joking with you guys and other people. Like the Bulls are the Kings kind of quote unquote game they should win. But I mean, you never know. Kevin Huerter could come in with the flamethrower and get hot for the first time. What feels like a Golden One center all year. Sorry, no shots fired there. But no, really looking at Phoenix, who the Kings, just to update the strength of schedule, which I give every week so far. The Kings were second, I think, last week. They're down to fifth now, so obviously a couple tough matchups.
Improvement.
Like the Knicks and in Denver and Golden State in there, that'll drop you. But Phoenix is still the toughest in the league. Their remaining strength of schedule, their combined winning percentage is 61%, or 616, I guess, if we're going from a standing standpoint. But they get Cleveland, OKC, Boston twice, the Knicks, the Rockets, the Warriors, buzzsaw. And I think it is pretty much a guarantee. The Kings, we'll see. I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, but pretty close to a guarantee they're going to be in that 9-10 game. Like you said, there's still a chance Kings could get hot. I mean, I'm a little pessimistic there. But the Clippers, for the record, the Clippers aren't a guaranteed to coast to the finish line either. They're the third hardest at the schedule in the NBA left. They get Cleveland twice, OKC, the Knicks, Rockets, Warriors. So there could be some shuffling around, but I think the Kings right now, they are in a position to control their own destiny as far as this goes. And like I mentioned, I mean, if you're in a single elimination game, you want to be at home, even if you're playing the Mavericks, who could have, maybe they get AD back at that point, or maybe they're playing with their bare bones. Maybe the Suns get hot and they squeak into that 10 seed and the Kings are playing them. We saw what happened in Phoenix the other night. The Kings obviously had a hard time with them. So I'm looking at it as the Kings pretty close to a guarantee they're in that 9-10 game, but you never know. You can't get too comfortable. And now with some potential injury questions about Domantas Sabonis, who is out tomorrow with an ankle sprain, looked pretty bad. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll have to see what this Kings team looks like in the next couple of weeks. We have, I think, less than a month to go until final game of the year. So a lot can happen between now and then.
Yeah, definitely look locked into that 9th spot. You could technically get to 8th, but you'd have to really be confident in this team putting together a winning streak. And I don't think any of us are quite at that point. You definitely want to play Dallas rather than Phoenix, obviously, in that first play-in game. And I got to say, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine have to be pretty close to like the record for play-in games.
Oh,
just
man.
total
Yeah,
games played, because
Absolutely.
Chicago is playing 2 play-in games every single year. And
Isn't
now
Chicago
Sacramento's on track to do the same.
It's Chicago and Atlanta every year, isn't the joke?
It is
that
Atlanta.
It's
That's
Chicago
right.
and Atlanta every year playing for that 8 seed, I think.
Yeah, somehow. And it's only been like 3-4 years, but I swear that Zach and DeMar have played in the maximum amount of play-in games possible. So take that for what you will. But yeah, I guess experience. But single elimination basketball, definitely anything can happen. I think they just need to get some confidence with this group and like figure out the defensive question marks that we all have. Like, I think those just are going to exist. Offensively, though, like try to find some identity. Stop having these slow starts at the beginning of games. And get some sense of just who you are as a team, what everybody's role is. And I think certain guys are having to adjust more than others. Obviously, Malik Monk probably being the biggest one there. But that Memphis game and getting a convincing win there, I think was a step in the right direction with that.
For what it's worth as well, I tried to look it up. Play-in stats, it's been said before, but just confirming, it just lives in the ether. Like, it just doesn't exist.
You can't even find it.
You cannot
it's
find
horrible.
Play-in stats. So I guess we'll just have to take it as a fact that DeMar and Zach LaVine have played in the most play-in games in NBA history, and I'm taking that as experience. But Frankie, you mentioned the Domantas Sabonis injury that kind of broke, if you will, a little bit before we hopped on this show here, and I haven't even really seen all of the reporting that's been out on there. So could either of you two just kind of catch us up to speed onto what the latest is with Domantas Sabonis?
Well, he's out for tomorrow, that's for sure. And they're still undergoing testing, it seems, because we haven't gotten an official word from the team yet. Usually we get a release about timelines and whatnot, but he's out for tomorrow, that's for sure. They're calling it an ankle sprain. But in the moment, it looked worse than that. And not to get too speculative, but we all kind of were surprised at Domas, who is as gritty as it comes and a guy who will play through so many injuries. We saw him get his eye opened up last night above his eye during the game. You see him come back.
That was a UFC fight.
Yeah, you see him come back with the bloody bandage and stitches over his eye. And, he finishes or tries to finish the game with that, but just kind of a human punching bag. The fact that he called out immediately, and I think Brenden posted the clip of him, was, NBC picked up him in the hallway, stumbling, falling over. We'll see what kind of grade sprain it is, if that is what the diagnosis is, but it looked pretty bad in the moment. And I think it's pretty safe to say he'll be out for a little bit. What does it look like? Does it look like a week or two? Who knows? We'll see what the Kings say when they put out the report, but it looks like it's going to be a multi-game absence. And this kind of goes back to that conversation we've had before when he was missing some time, that with the hamstring injury, that the Valanciunas trade now, it really could be the most important trade the Kings have made in quite some time. When you look at, he can't replicate what Domantas Sabonis does for, to a T, but pretty close as far as his physicality and the rebounding he can bring. Because if the Kings, as they were built coming into this year, were trying to navigate the tough part of their schedule with, I think, Alex Len, and no disrespect to Alex Len, or Isaac Jones, who's inexperienced. Trey Lyles is the starting center. I just feel like the Kings are that much more daunting of a task. But we'll see how long Sabonis is out. But, I mean, scary scene last night for sure, on a night that was overall pretty successful for the Kings.
Yeah, Frankie, I mean, you pointed it out. To me, the thing that really stuck out the most about that Sabonis injury yesterday was the fact that he immediately was in incredible pain. Like, that guy does not show any pain. We see him get hit in the face literally every single game. And yesterday was definitely not the exception to that. And you just saw him immediately grab his ankle. I think I was sitting next to both of you two. I can't remember which one of you two it was, but kind of could read his lips on the Jumbotron and say, like, it's bad, like, come over here, called for the coaching staff pretty quick. I mean, yeah, we just really don't see Domas show pain at all. And for him to immediately be in that much pain, and then, like you said, Frank, like for us to see the video of him collapsing pretty much in the locker room hallway. Yeah, I mean, your mind goes to really bad places, but at least, so far it does seem like, I don't know if you can read anything from it, but I think the fact that, they have only ruled him out for one game. I'm not saying it's going to be 2 games, then he'll be back, but, probably for a long-term diagnosis, it's probably a fairly decent sign that we haven't heard anything major yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And this team definitely needs him out there. They have fixed up that backup spot with Jonas Valanciunas, and I think this is a big part of the reason you bring him in, is not just to be better in those backup minutes, but have a fallback in case something happens to the guy in the starting unit. And obviously you're seeing that happen with Domas, but he was just coming back from an injury. He just had this left hamstring strain that he suffered on the road. I believe it was in Houston, and missed a week for. It was a non-contact injury. Looked a little concerning in the moment anytime you see a non-contact injury, and ended up only being a week. But at practice earlier this week, this is prior to the Memphis game for what it's worth, Domas talked about how he's still going to be dealing with stuff from that injury throughout the course of the rest of this season.
Domas, how do you get back into the game shape? Like, do you feel like you're there yet? Or?
Oh, no. I wasn't trying to go as hard as I can. There's always a worry about re-injuring this injury. The statistics aren't in our favor, so I don't want to do anything too sudden or anything, and just try to help my team win.
So for that, then do you attack it differently now for the rest of the year? Like, try to make sure that you're smart about it?
Yeah, for sure. Being smart and being on top of it. I can play through a lot of injuries. This is one that you have no control. So it was definitely a new territory for me.
No black eye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When Ryan Dunn did kind of fling you or whatever, you obviously felt something there. What?
It was probably just a reaction. I straightened my foot out. And just unnecessary.
Definitely just sounds like something he's going to be dealing with for a while. And then that is before the game that he goes out there and gets a gash over his right eye, looking like he was just in a fist fight, and leaves the game for a little while. We didn't get word on that. I would assume that he got stitches, because that looked pretty tough out there, and he came back with it bandaged up, and then ends up rolling his ankle in pretty concerning fashion, like Chris laid out. But this team just did survive, and I would even say thrived, really, with Domas out while Jonas Valanciunas was filling into that spot. But Chris, how do you feel like the Kings can stay afloat here without Domas?
I mean, that's tough, man. I mean, we saw them kind of keep their head above water here without Sabonis the first time, but I just don't know, man. Like, he's such a big part of the offense. Obviously getting the rebounds, the toughness, and all that stuff. And, in a way, it kind of brings up the problem that we had initially with Domas' situation before we made the Valanciunas trade, that I think Frankie's done a great job of highlighting. Like, that's a really, really massive trade in terms of even if the Kings end up just in a play-in situation. Like, you could say whatever quote unquote saving the season is, like, the Valanciunas trade definitely could be classified as a season saving trade. But I think the problem becomes that you're just in that situation now with Valanciunas is you don't have a backup big. We've seen that Trey Lyles can kind of, spare some minutes. Yesterday, he did a great job cleaning the glass and all that stuff. But we've just seen that what it adds with Valanciunas to be on the bench and bring that level of production. Like, they're just back to being really thin, and it's really reliant on the starters. And, you needed Keegan Murray to have a really big performance in those games without Domantas Sabonis. And, the same is still needed. You need the other guys to step up in major ways without Sabonis out there.
Yeah, Frank, who do you look to? Obviously Valanciunas, but is there anybody else that stands out to you as somebody you want to step up in Domas's absence?
Well, a side note to the injury report, too, is it's pretty noteworthy that Zach LaVine was not listed on it. And there was kind of a moment last night where he was hobbling up and down the court and looked like maybe he was dealing with an ankle injury as well. And after the game, he kind of brushed it off and said that, he deals with it, happens. And, for a guy who's dealt with some injuries, lower body like that before, it was a little concerning, but looks like he's good to go. But I look to those guys, your main scorers, LaVine and DeRozan, all the Bulls West jokes, the Kings have heard so far. We're going to see if these guys can band together and make it happen. I'm not sure what their record is in the play-in together on the Bulls, but maybe they can find success in Sacramento. And I'm looking to those guys. Malik Monk, who had a great game last night, and I think that we're going to talk about if he really fits as a traditional point guard. But last night he looked like a traditional point guard, 28 points, 7 assists, 3 turnovers, which he was hard on himself for after the game. But those are the guys that really are the head of the snake there. And we can talk about Keegan Murray, who had a double-double, and it continues to play pretty well in the second half of the year. We can talk about the bench, Jake LaRavia with a good night last night, Keon Ellis, Devin Carter starting to kind of come onto the scene here and get some playing time. It's going to have to be a collective effort, really. I mean, everyone's going to have to do a little bit more when you're missing a guy like Domantas Sabonis, who has been All-NBA the past 2 years. So it's a tall task, but when you have the acquisitions the Kings did make at the deadline, which, I've been pretty critical of the front office over the past year plus, and it looks like that those guys are going to be pretty big. LaRavia and Valanciunas are going to be pretty important, and LaVine obviously be pretty important for the Kings on the final stretch here. And it kind of starts with Valanciunas, though, filling into those shoes of Sabonis. He can't replicate exactly what those numbers are, but if he can just be physical and those 10 plus rebounds per game, that's pretty much the number that he was replicating when Domas missed that time due to the hamstring strain. The rebounds are what's most important in my opinion, and the scoring, other guys can kind of plug that hole as well.
The adjusting that you mentioned, everybody's taken part in it, but definitely Malik Monk getting used to that starting point guard role. We're going to get to that here on the other side, listening to the Return of the Roar podcast on Sacktown Sports 1140.
Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, is coming back May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, Cole Wetzel, Nate Smith, and more. You'll enjoy food trucks, rock walls, and a mechanical bull, line dancing, and more. Single-day GA tickets start at $52 at CITPFest.com. Country in the Park, May 16th and 17th with Paul Mitchell, The School, Sacramento, and Stoney's Rockin' Rodeo. Find out more at CITPFest.com.
Jerry and Kenny here from Bell Brothers. And if you've even thought of replacing your old, outdated, inefficient windows, now is the time to take action.
Right now at Bell Brothers, when you buy one window, you'll get the second one for 30% off. That's right. Buy one, get the second one 30% off.
That's real savings, up to $6,000. You have to buy at least 4 windows to qualify, and you can't mix windows and doors. But beyond that, every second window is 30% off.
For example, when you buy 10 windows, you will get 5 windows at 30% off. We also have 0% interest financing available for qualified buyers. Call for details.
To take advantage of our buy one, get one 30% off sale, call Bell Brothers now at 916-444-1234 or find us online at thenosurpriseguys.com.
The No Surprise Guys, Bell Brothers.
Hello, Sacramento. I'm Emron Pilati, owner of True Sports Cards and Collectible Store here in Rockland, California, and the host of the True Sports Cards Show that airs right here on Sacktown Sports 1140 every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m., where we discuss the latest trends, hottest products, and deliver exclusive interviews with other industry leaders. And don't forget to visit our shop, True Sports Cards, at 6661 Stanford Ranch Road in Rockland and see what we have for all your sports card and memorabilia needs.
Huge savings now on new 2025 Silverado at the Maida Chevy Silverado Super Center.
Save $11,000 off MSRP after rebate every new Silverado LT Turbo Max with Maida Chevy's exclusive all in-stock pricing.
And Maida Chevy has one of the largest selections in the Sacramento area.
$11,000 off new Silverado at the Maida Chevy Silverado Super Center. Now that's big, huge. See them all at MaidaChevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Not available with special financing, leasing, some of the offers.
Made a great deal at Maida.
Explore unbeatable lease offers at Folsom Buick GMC. Lease the 2024 GMC Hummer EV SUV for just $699 per month, the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 for only $469 per month, or the 2024 GMC Sierra Crew Cab Pro for just $219 per month. Plus, enjoy a 20-year, 200,000-mile powertrain warranty with any new vehicle purchase. Check dealer for exclusions and receive a Starbucks gift card when you visit our store. Visit Folsom Buick GMC today. See dealer for complete details.
Get ready for the high-octane action. It's the 76th season opener at the Stockton 99 Speedway, March 29th. Watch the intense racing action as the Stockton Late Models, NorCal Mini Stocks, NorCal Legend Series, Pure Stocks, and Fast Car Solutions Mini Modifieds tear up the track. It's fast, it's thrilling, it's non-stop action you don't want to miss. Family-friendly fun, food, and excitement for everyone. Gates open at 5 p.m. Racing starts at 6. Stockton 99 Speedway, where speed and excitement come to life. March 29th. Be there for the 76th season opener. For tickets, visit Stockton99.com.
Mike Rowe here with a quick question. Have you noticed cracks in your drywall, chimney, or exterior walls? I hope not, because if you have, they could be indications that you've got a much bigger problem with your foundation. That's where Groundworks comes in. They can honestly assess your situation and create a plan to stabilize your foundation. Schedule your free inspection at groundworks.com/row. And while you're there, check out my latest dirty job. It's a good one.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
Thunder, feel the thunder.
It ignites something inside of you.
Lightning and the thunder. Thunder.
Sets alight an elevated state of being. Days are pure exhilaration. And the nights, they're simply electric. See it, hear it, feel it.
Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder.
Thunder Valley Casino Resort. Feel the thunder.
What's up? We're talking to Chad Hoblet, Hoblet Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, and Woodland. Chad, it's Ram Truck Month. The sales event's going on right now, and I know that means heavy discounts.
It's not just a discount. It's big discounts on hard-to-find Ram heavy duties. Right now, save up to $16,000 off MSRP on remaining new 2024 Ram 2500 and 3500 heavy duties. When you need a hard-to-find truck, Hoblet has it, with over 500 new Rams available.
Just one of the many reasons Hoblet always ranks as one of the biggest and best Ram dealers in all of America.
And we are proud of that. But we don't just sell Rams. You have to check out the Hoblet Certified Pre-Owned Supercenter with 200 vehicles available and 30 under $20,000.
Search, select, and save through their whole inventory at HobletDodge.com. Unbeatable prices, unbeatable selection. Nobody beats Hoblet, period.
$16,000 total net savings after $71.29 factor rebates and $88.71 dealer discounts. Rebates include $500 first responder bonus cash for eligible first responders and $66.29 West BC standalone 10% below MSRP. 5 vehicles at this net savings. Simple VIN 316786. Not everyone will qualify for all rebates. See dealer for details.
Only one radio program captures the excitement of hunting and fishing as it happens. The award-winning California Sportsman with Sep Hendrickson. Only California Sportsman takes you where the action is. Live on the water, live in the blind, and live with the top pros and experts in outdoor sports. California Sportsman with Fishing Hall of Famer Sep Hendrickson is your premier destination for all things outdoors. Sep's Saturday Morning Outdoors. Ultimate Bass and California Sportsman, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Saturdays on Sacktown Sports 1140.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball. Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sacktown Sports.
Sacramento Kings get back in the win column after losing 4 straight with a big 10-point victory last night over the Memphis Grizzlies. Sitting in 9th in the Western Conference. You're listening to a live episode of the Return of the Roar podcast on Sacktown Sports 1140 with myself, Brenden Nunes, Chris Watkins, and Frankie Cartoscelli. We mentioned before the break a lot of the changes and sort of adjustments that some of these players are going through in new roles. And I personally think that maybe the most glaring one is Malik Monk. Obviously, ever since the De'Aaron Fox trade, has been asked to be the primary point guard for this team in that starting lineup after being a spark plug off the bench for most of his career, specifically in Sacramento. And at a recent practice, again, this is right before the Memphis Grizzlies game for what it's worth, Malik Monk was asked if, he has any sort of concerns so far about the adjustment. And he was quick to respond, and I'm paraphrasing here by saying, no, that he's not concerned about anything, that this is an adjustment period, essentially. And he explained sort of, the journey up to this point and everything he's dealing with as he's going through this adjustment period at last practice.
Hell no. I ain't worried about nothing, man. I wasn't starting this year. I started. Coach got fired. Fox got traded. I became a starting point guard. I don't think you could prepare for that without knowing. So I'm fine. I know I got to be better. I know I got to make some shots. Can't keep going 0 for. Can't keep going 1 for 7 from the 3. And I definitely got to pick it up on the defensive end to start the games. So yeah, that's all I've been saying on film when I've been watching. Just me being more assertive until Keon and Jake get in. I feel like that's got to be my job.
Until Keon and Jake get in, being that first substitution where Malik is usually heading to the bench. 15 games played with Zach LaVine on the team where Malik is in that starting point guard spot. 16.3 points, 5.9 assists on 41% from the field and 27% from 3 for Malik Monk. What Chris, have you seen during this adjustment period, and what stood out to you as, maybe the most concerning things and other aspects where you feel like, all right, there's something here and he could get better as he gets more reps here?
Yeah, I think adjustment period is the perfect way of saying it. Like, I think it's just, I think Zach LaVine actually said it perfectly last night. Like, sometimes I think you have to figure out what you don't know before you figure out what you do know, and use that more in a basketball term of like, you got to figure out, where people like things, or, hey, like this, if we are really going to force Malik to create on his own, like that's just not going to work out. Turns out he does need Sabonis screens or something like that. Like, I think it's just a lot of adjustment. I've definitely have seen a lot of ramped up conversations of should Keon Ellis enter the starting lineup. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the Malik conversation. I think everyone knows what Malik Monk is and what he can do. I think it's really just a question of where he's best utilized. Like, I think that starting lineup, I think we're just seeing some of the possible downfall, or downsides, I should say, of Malik playing with so many other ball dominant guys. Like when he's going to be out there with LaVine and with DeRozan, not necessarily Sabonis as much recently, but when he's going to be out there with those other ball handlers, he's going to kind of, be a little clunky and repetitive sometimes. And I think that's really the biggest thing I've noticed is just, I think with so much guys who kind of need the ball in their hand, I think sometimes Malik just kind of struggles to find, and everybody is, even Zach LaVine, we saw last night, like he has a big first 3 quarters, and I think he only scores 3 more points in the fourth quarter, just really goes quiet. I think all these guys are kind of struggling to find where to pick and choose their spots, and I think that's the thing that's been toughest. And just to put my 2 cents in it, like I do kind of feel like it's just really tough to make big adjustments right now when you're trying to win all of as many games as you can down the stretch right now, and you're playing really tough opponents. Like, I just think it's really tough to make any wholesale changes in total. And so I kind of think, not that things are going great right now, but I do kind of think you have to ride out the ship at this point.
Malik Monk has played in more than 500 career NBA games, and only 16 of them have come as a starting point guard. I think you could say even as a point guard. I'm sure that there's a handful of experiences on those Charlotte teams with really bad rosters of, hey, Malik, we need you to do this tonight. So I'm sure that there are experiences here and there, but now fully in that role, 27 years old. Frank, what's your confidence level that he can continue to just get better at this as, it's a new thing?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle there. I mean, I think that I've been pretty outspoken on, especially on here the past couple of weeks, that I think that he's best suited in that bench role, that reserve role on this current roster, the way that's made up. And, he's worked out as a starter overall. The numbers as a starter are pretty good. 18.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, 6.5 assists. That's 43 games so far he's been a starter. But the shooting numbers have been very down compared to where he was earlier in the year. And it's a much more limited sample size as a reserve, but as a reserve, I don't know if it's the pressure or just maybe, he's playing with that starting unit, playing next to Fox a little more at the time. But the shooting numbers, specifically 3-point shooting for Malik, has decreased as each month has gone on. And starting in October, 36% from 3, 35 in November, 34 the next month, 30% in January, 27 in February. He's up a little more, 28% in March, but the 3-point shooting hasn't been there for Malik. And I wonder if that's because he's focusing more on his playmaking and trying to make the right move. And we saw last night a couple of times, and Brenden, you pointed out on Twitter that Malik really has a knack for kind of going in those pocket passes in the paint, finding Domas or finding Valanciunas, finding his big, And I think he's been forcing a little much and trying to do a little too much and make that extra pass or make that, sometimes a little too flashy as well. And I think he's trying to make a good impression. And this is a shot he's wanted for a while. And, Fox being gone does hand him the keys. He is their point guard for the foreseeable future. Like you said, Chris, I can't see them making a change, especially at this point. I think they would have done it already especially with the losing streak, you see things kind of get tinkered with. And that's when Mike put Malik in the starting lineup to begin with. And the Kings were in a real downslope. So I think he's kind of trying to find his way right now and trying to find what his exact role will be. And I think the best version of Malik Monk was in the second unit where he was, a lot less pressure and able to, kind of play make when he wants, play off ball a little bit. But again, you had De'Aaron Fox in the fold then. And while you have DeMar and you have Zach, who are also ball dominant, they aren't quite the exact table setter as De'Aaron Fox was. So we'll see if we can figure it out. But I'm looking at those shooting numbers. If you can get those shooting numbers back up to a respectable mark in the last couple of weeks here, it makes that much more of a difference, especially with Domas out.
I think a big aspect of those 3-point shooting numbers you mentioned is this year for Malik, 33.6% on catch and shoot threes, but 28% on pull up or off the dribble threes. And obviously when you're the primary point guard out there, and you mentioned no longer having De'Aaron, being the one that's creating not only for yourself, but for your teammates. And like you said, other guys that will help out with that, but that is Malik's job in the role that he's being asked to play. You're going to be working off the dribble a little bit more. And he talked about, a mindset change that he's sort of adjusting to here. And I think that we saw progress in that Memphis game for the most part, but I overall agree with you, Frank. And I think that begs the question then of, if you don't feel like Malik is the long-term answer at point guard, does that open up something that you need to go try and get this offseason? And I know I'm looking more big picture here, but we can get back to a little bit more of like this season specific in the next segment. I'm curious, Chris, do you feel like going into the offseason, point guard is something that needs to be addressed for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some capacity, unquestionably. I mean, I would say that you have to at least bring in some other point guard option. I think the problem becomes like, what caliber do you want? Like, do you want somebody to be the starter moving forward and maybe, hey, say, Malik, we do think you are starter quality, but we think we're going to put you more at a 2 next to a facilitator. I think that's just the tough thing, is trying to figure out exactly where you want to go. I mean, and ultimately the decision is how long do you want to do this Malik Monk experiment? And, I think sometimes that has a negative connotation, but this really at this point is the Kings trying to see if they can give Malik Monk a bigger sample size to see if there will be greater returns. And, I personally would like to see them bring in a true facilitator. I think that's the only way that all of this is going to work, but it wouldn't surprise me if, because they already have Malik Monk signed for the next couple seasons, why not say maybe next year is the year that we give you a full leash, we give you a full training camp. And if we don't like it after next year, going into one of the last years, if not, I think it would be the last year of that contract. Then maybe we could revisit. But I think it's probably going to be a backup, if I had to guess.
Certainly a situation that I don't think any of us expected the Sacramento Kings to be in at the beginning of the season, when De'Aaron Fox is still on the roster, Mike Brown's still the head coach of this team. Feels like forever ago at this point. But as the season has not gone the way that you may have expected, there is still one player that could be an award winner for this Kings team. And that is in peril a little bit. There's a little bit of risk involved on if that is going to happen here, as he needs to meet a number of games played. We'll dive into who that is on the other side here and what he needs to do in order to be award eligible. Maybe the only one for the Sacramento Kings this year. Listening to the Return of the Roar podcast on Sacktown Sports 1140.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. You get it?
Yes, good job.
So what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container, because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
We could all use more time. Amazon Business offers smart business buying solutions so you can spend more time growing your business and less time doing the admin. I can see why they call it smart. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
Choose Syntec full synthetic motor oil designed for today's engines exclusively at your O'Reilly Auto Parts store or O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Spring is in the air, and there's really nothing better than hitting the open road in a new Honda. Whether you're shopping for new or pre-owned, Stockton Honda has the selection and savings. Plus, get top dollar for your trade. And while life's roads are often filled with bumps, buying from Stockton Honda couldn't be smoother. Wherever the road you travel might lead, Stockton Honda is happy to get you there. Come in today or go to StocktonHonda.com.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
When it comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost. I had snapped. I had a gun and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still a life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone. Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, is coming back May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, Cole Wetzel, Nate Smith, and more. You'll enjoy food trucks, rock walls, and a mechanical bull, line dancing, and more. Single-day GA tickets start at $52 at CITPFest.com. Country in the Park, May 16th and 17th with Paul Mitchell, The School, Sacramento, and Stoney's Rockin' Rodeo. Find out more at CITPFest.com.
Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has the best truck on the market, the 2025 Ram 1500. And that's not an exaggeration. It's proven. It's the 7th time Ram has won the Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Car and Driver named it one of its 10 best vehicles of 2025, giving it a 10 out of 10. And at JD Power, it's #1 when it comes to brand vehicle quality. And hey, yeah, all that's great. But where Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram really separates themselves from the pack is their car buying experience. Come on in and see for yourself why they say it's where a handshake still means something.
Ever find yourself lucky enough to just kick back and read a good book, sitting there in the comfort of your own living room, shoes off, feet up? Seriously, who doesn't love that? It might be an all too rare moment, but in your house, yeah, it's a great moment. Right now, get your furnace tuned up with Bonnie for just $59. Funny how something as simple as that will provide a whole lot more of those unplanned special moments. Bonnie, plumbing, electrical, heating, and air. Bonnie.com.
Bonnie!
License 696-355.
At Kids Care Dental and Orthodontics, we provide anxiety-free dental care from first tooth through teens to ensure your child's dental health journey is all smiles. We've created a fun, kid-friendly dental experience that will put your child at ease, and you'll be smiling too. We accept most insurance options, and we have convenient hours, including Saturdays. At Kids Care, we care about creating fearless smiles for the whole family. Kids Care Dental is now offering sensory-friendly hours at select locations. For more info and to book your appointment, go to kidscaredental.com and discover why more families in Sacramento trust us with their kids' smiles.
Insurance companies perform a very valuable service, but they want to keep their money. Although most cases settle before trial, it is paramount that the insurance companies know that if pressed, your legal team has the experience to take your case all the way. For 25 years, Ashton and Price has earned the reputation that if the insurance company isn't fair, we're ready to force them to be fair. My mom used to warn me, wait till dad gets home. Think of us as dad. The best part, there's no fee until we win.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
Finally, an easy way to find home improvement contractors. Just visit subcontractorsunited.com and simplify your search for home services professionals. From cabinets to windows, roofing to plumbing, Subcontractors United is an easy, simple way to find and hire a home improvement contractor. And you never have to give up personal information. So no harassing phone calls like you get from those other websites. Subcontractorsunited.com is sponsored by D&D Cabinets and Savage Design.
Big savings are back at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. New Hondas are piling up, and that means big savings for you.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda. Your one-stop Honda shop.
When it comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost. I had snapped. I had a gun and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still a life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone. Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Home of our Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
Been an up and down year for the 2024-25 Sacramento Kings. Little positives throughout the season that you can take here and there, but honestly not the greatest overarching year. There could be a silver lining if you care for it of an award winner for the Sacramento Kings. I think still very much in play throughout the remainder of this season. Domantas Sabonis, who made All-NBA each of the last 2 seasons. He made third team in 2022-23, where he was also an All-Star. Last year, 2023-24, did not make the All-Star team, but did make All-NBA third team. I would argue that All-NBA means more prestigious, however you want to say it, than the All-Star game. I say that again to mention that this year, Domas did not make the All-Star team, but I think very well could be in the conversation for that third team All-NBA. He is at 58 games, though, and new rule as they changed a couple years ago, you have to play at least 65 games in order to be award eligible here. Fellas, again, Domas has played in 58 games. There's only, I want to say it's about 16, 17, 18, something in there games left for the Kings this season. He's got to get 7 more under his belt, averaging about similar to what he was last year. 19.2 points, 13.9 rebounds is a career high for him, and that's after leading the league in rebounds the 2 years prior. He increased each year from that point. The assists are down a little bit this year, 6.2 compared to 8.2 the year prior, but efficiency up a little bit, about the same in field goal percentage, 59, but career high in 3-point percentage, 42.5% on just over 2 a game. Frank, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think Domas's odds are? Obviously, this injury plays a part in that, needing 7 more games in order to be eligible. But thoughts on, just if he's had, I guess we'll word it as if he's had an all-NBA caliber year, given that now, it could be something out of his control that may take him out of the running.
I think so. I think maybe by process of elimination, as far as players that have been injured this year. I was even looking at old friend De'Aaron Fox, seeing if he was someone who could potentially be in the mix. He's played 62 games this year before being ruled out for the year. Victor Wembanyama, who's been a darling of the NBA, he got his season cut short. Kyrie Irving now is hurt out for the year. Anthony Davis. I mean, there's just so many players that have been affected by injuries this year that I think Domas is in a pretty good spot. And, does he deserve it? That's up for you to decide, as a fan. But I think he does because of where he ranks as far as all the other NBA leaders in NBA in rebounds per game, win shares. He's always in the top 5, field goal percentage, always in the top, 10, double doubles. I think he's still in the second, or maybe he's still in first ahead of Karl Anthony Towns, who probably will get all NBA as well. If not some, late MVP votes, not going to be top 5 probably, but a guy who's been huge for the Knicks this year in a trade that I think a lot of us didn't think would be this impactful for New York. So Domas really kind of has been that guy that keeps the Kings going. And we're going to see how important he is really over the next couple games, like we talked about. Not to get too speculative, it looks like it could be a multi-game absence. We'll get some more clarity from the Kings probably by the end of tonight or tomorrow before the game. I would imagine they want to, get that out there and have all the tests done. But it does seem like Domas is in a pretty good spot to get his second straight year of All-NBA while not being an All-Star. I'm not sure if that's ever happened before. But I think last year he was the only All-NBA player to not be on the All-Star team. So it's a tradition at this point. Just kind of keep it going.
Now, can you guys remind me if they have the center positions locked in still with the All-NBA? I know they removed like point guard, shooting guard, and they just did guard forward, but is there still mandated centers on every All-NBA team?
There are not centers.
No. It's just, I think,
okay,
5.
so it's completely positionless, because that's the only thing. That's the thing that makes it a little bit tough for Domas. I think he's got a chance if it's just third best center in the NBA. Frank, you mentioned Karl Anthony Towns. We know Nikola Jokic is obviously getting first team All-NBA. I think it's going to be tough. We saw Alperen Şengün pretty much take that all-star spot that you mentioned. Houston's right now, as of today, Houston's the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. I would imagine you give him, or at least look at him, over Sabonis, who's currently locked in the 9 spot. Maybe you look at Evan Mobley, somebody who's had a really, really big year for Cleveland. Cleveland's obviously been insane this season. I would think he gets a nod over Sabonis. I think there's just a lot more competition. I wouldn't be so sure. And I actually just did the math on it too. Looking at it, Sabonis gets hurt yesterday, Monday, March 17th. They play next Monday against Boston, the following Monday against Indiana. That gives him 2 weeks. After that, there is 7 games remaining on the schedule after that Indiana game. So he would have to come back after that Indiana game, which would be Wednesday, April 2nd against Washington. So that pretty much gives him the rest of this month to recover. I just don't know. I mean, it's really tough. Again, we talked about it earlier in the show, but with how much pain he looked like he was in, 2 weeks for an ankle to me feels like the bare minimum. I think we're going to see how much all NBA matters to him truly, like as, whatever, as shameless or whatever as it is. Like, I think if we see him come back and, obviously playoffs definitely play a part in that as well. But, I think we're probably going to see him return sooner rather than later. But it feels like 2 weeks for an ankle sprain, as bad as what it looked like. And he's coming off a hamstring injury. It just seems a little scary to me, but it wouldn't surprise me, I guess.
Yeah, great note there. Domantas Sabonis can't miss more than 2 weeks if he's still going to be eligible for all NBA. At 58 games played right now, has to get up to at least 65. I pulled up here, Sam Quinn for CBS Sports wrote his predictions 4 days ago for the all NBA
Sam
teams.
Quinn does not like the Kings, I will tell you.
He does not? That is a good note.
Traditionally does not right now.
That is a good note.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough, but I just wanted to go down the list of names, and you guys stop me at any point. Okay. First team, I think this is going to be easy. Nikola Jokic, SGA, Giannis, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell.
Sure.
No pause, I'd assume. Second team, LeBron James, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Evan Mobley. Any arguments? Anthony Edwards? Anyone? Not really.
I think Cap might deserve a shout, but yeah.
Okay. Third team. And if you think Domas would take the place of any of these guys, Jaren Jackson Jr., probably up there for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Williams. Is it just me, or is it kind of Kevin Durant and Kat that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's KD for sure. I mean, especially if they just miss the playoffs completely, or the play-in completely, that is, like with Phoenix. How are you going to and Sabonis finishes not like, there's a little bit of politics there, but not Kevin Durant. It's Kevin Durant. So that's the other side of the politics. And KD's 6th right now in the NBA in scoring. So it's not egregious. It's going to be tough. I think that's what we can nickel and dime it, but I think the bigger point is it's going to be tough, and the Kings can only do Sabonis favors by rising in the standings. I think the standings are going to be the one thing that hurts him the most.
Yeah, the name Kevin Durant might be what puts it over the top. If it's between those two, I mean, you can take the numbers away or take the names away, and the numbers that by themselves and where they finish in the standings are a different conversation. But I mean, I think the voters are going to keep giving KD that love until he's gone.
Probably going to be the way it goes. We'll see. I think Domas at least is in consideration, as long as he doesn't miss more than 2 weeks here. So TBD on that. We will see how that continues to all play out. Ramsey behind the glass thinks it's Jaren Jackson Jr. that he may replace. We'll see with no Wembanyama as part of that Defensive Player of the Year race. I'm curious who it goes down to with Mobley and Jackson and if that matters here at all. But Kings bench has been performing really well as of late, and specifically last night against the Memphis Grizzlies. I thought Trey Lyles was great, closed the game in place of Jonas Valanciunas. We also saw Jake LaRavia have a really big game. Zach LaVine joked that it was somewhat of a revenge game against his former team. And we saw Devin Carter, rookie, coming into his own a little bit, starting to get comfortable. Happy birthday, Devin Carter, by the way. Starting to get a little bit comfortable. And the Kings did just add, they signed Scalabissier to a 10-day contract earlier when Domantas Sabonis went down. And now they're adding Terry Taylor from their Stockton team. 28 games with Stockton this year. He's averaging 17.5 points, 8.5 boards, 1.2 blocks in just over 34 minutes. Frank, I won't make you talk about Terry Taylor specifically, but if you would like to, feel free. Who stands out to you on this Kings bench as an important piece that you want to see show up more often than not?
I mean, Terry Taylor's intriguing. I mean, we'll see if he gets some run. Cool for Scal, by the way, just a side note, if this 10 days done and they didn't sign him to another one, that he got to come back. And kind of a feel-good story this year is that Scal got to come back to the NBA, got to get a bucket, and he's been around in the G League for a couple of years now in Stockton, so good to see him come back and do that. But yeah, I mean, Terry Taylor's probably someone who's not going to play too much, I would imagine. I think that's just insurance, roster insurance for Domas. But the second unit, really, I mean, I'm looking at Keon Ellis, Devin Carter. I mean, that lineup last night that had Carter, LaRavia, Ellis really kind of was, bringing the chaos and applying pressure to Memphis. And kind of matching Memphis's old school grit and grind style there and wearing down Memphis. So I'm looking to see if they can continue to bring that intensity, because the offense we saw last night, I think that's something that was working well for the Kings, and they were playing well after, the All-Star break. They had some pretty good offensive stretches there. And, they're back to their three-point shooting ways here. And if they can continue to space the floor, Keon among the league leaders in three-point shooting, Laravia, who struggled and was open about how he wanted to kind of turn things around. He's been shooting the ball a lot better. Trey Lyles, someone who we thought maybe would be back out of the rotation now that Domas was back in the fold. With Domas back out with an injury, Markelle Fultz has kind of faded into the background. You're kind of looking at your core guys here. And Devin Carter, I think like we pointed out before, intriguing. Someone who the offense needs some work. I think a lot of fans were kind of focusing on his free throw shooting and shooting in overall. But I mean, he had 4 steals over the first 7 minutes of playing time last night. Just really someone who can defend multiple positions and apply pressure and is really athletic. He almost took the roof off of the building last night with a dunk that almost landed. But, I think that he's going to be a huge part of the Kings going forward, especially if they're looking for that point guard depth. So I'm looking at those guys, Keon, Carter, Lyles, and Laravia. That's kind of their bench right now, especially with Valanciunas back in the starting 5. But it's better depth than before. Is it enough to make a difference on the final stretch? We're going to see. But I do feel like they're in a better spot from a depth position than they were pre-deadline.
I forgot about that dunk until you mentioned it. He shot a couple glances over to his old team too. I don't think there was any hate there or anything. I mean, who knows? Really,
he was looking at Ja. Apparently, he was looking at Ja Morant after the dunk. He was definitely getting animated.
He definitely was. Chris, the Rook getting out there a little bit. Devin Carter, what have you seen from him, and who else has impressed you on the bench?
Yeah, Devin looked great yesterday, especially defensively. I think that's where he's going to kind of make his money. Like Frank mentioned, the shot and the free throw, I think, are 2 things where you look at, and those are really concerning. He was 2 of 6 at the free throw line yesterday. That's just not great, especially at the guard position. If Devin, as we were talking about, like, what are they going to do with, point guard position in the future? Didn't even mention Devin Carter as a possibility. I don't know where he really fits in terms of playmaking. Like, do they feel good about him as a potential backup point guard? Do they view him as a 2? I think that's intriguing, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how much time they want to give him. I think it'd be great. I'd love to see what more he's got, but I'm really intrigued. And quick note on Terry Taylor, really physical player. Like, every time me and Brenden have seen him in Stockton, that dude drives to the rim. He'll hit you with some elbows, with some Euro steps. And he's a dog. He's a bulldog of a player. I don't know how much we'll see him, but he's had some really big gains out in Stockton, like some triple-double type numbers. So somebody who can potentially kind of be a Swiss Army knife for this team if needed, but I'd be surprised if we saw Terry Taylor.
Yeah, I talked to Terry Taylor in Stockton earlier this year, and he mentioned how he's kind of trying to rework himself a little bit, being labeled for most of his career as a small ball 4, even going back to Indiana with Domantas Sabonis, and wants to be a little bit more positionally versatile, 2 to 4, shooting the 3 ball a little bit better. I still got to workshop a name here, but since we're going to be weekly, I think we should do some sort of weekly stock on these players. And so real quick, as we only got a minute here or so, give me one player that you'd buy stock on for the Kings over this next week, Chris.
I think Devin Carter is a great shout. I mean, we saw him play probably his best game or most productive game of his career. I think him getting more minutes makes the most sense right now.
What about you, Frank? Real quick, who'd you buy stock on?
Jake Laravia. It's a contract year for him. I think he's definitely trying to get paid. The Kings probably can't afford him. I think that's a big storyline to watch, especially as the offseason approaches. But Jake Laravia, man, he's playing pretty well right now.
Great shout.
Great shout. I'm investing in some weekly stock in Jonas Valanciunas. Feel like it's kind of a little bit of a bailout one, but Domantas Sabonis likely to be down for a little while here. I think JV is going to show even more of why they brought him in here. And we've appreciated everybody listening to this episode of a live Return of the Roar podcast here on Sacktown Sports 1140. We'll revisit those stocks next week and talk about everything that's gone on after the Sacramento Kings face an extremely difficult schedule here. So stay tuned in. Be sure to check out Sacktown Sports 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Us here, Return of the Roar, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Did you miss any part of our live local shows? Don't worry, you never have to miss them again. Check out SacktownSports.com.